Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
All right, a pleasant afternoon to everybody, and good evening and good morning, depending where everybody is in this great world. And hope everybody's being safe and having a good time and not worrying about things. But I know we all do. But we got to maybe take 55 minutes away and talk about water. And I'm Rob Starr, and welcome to tuning in to the Water Zone. I appreciate everybody calling in. We have a great show today, and going to bring in our lovely, wonderful, smart, intelligent lady that I know about water, Miss Christine Austin. Chris, hello.
How you doing today?
We're good. So you're up in you're up visiting your mom and stuff, and so you're not on the video screen that I can see, but that's okay. I know what you look like. And
yep.
How's everything going up there? Good. Good day.
Yeah, I'm actually up in Reno today, and we've got some partly cloudy skies and some threatening clouds over the mountains. We've been having some thunderstorms and rain, not here in Reno, but up in the mountains and around the valley, as if we have this nice low that's kind of blowing around. Still Mario's remnants and stuff. So, yeah. But you know, it's nice to get rain at this time of the year, and hopefully it sort of slows down any fires. So we'll take the rain and
absolutely,
and hope for the best.
Absolutely, it's about 105 here today out in West Phoenix area, and it's good. I haven't checked in with Chris Davey because I usually talk to him almost every day anyway. Yes, as you all know, he's a good friend, so we always stay touched together. I never had a brother, but if I did, I would want one like Chris. He's a good guy. Anyway, got a great show today, but I've been reading all your stuff, which I do every single morning, and it seems to be a lot of issues with the groundwater, especially in Tulare County and Kings County. Can you kind of bring us up to speed on those?
Oh, yeah. The southern San Joaquin Valley, which is the Kings County and Tulare County, are really having some fun with SGMA, the state groundwater sustainability law, and the Kings County is the first basin that got put on probation by the state water board. They were the first up, and they got put on probation. So they promptly filed a lawsuit and said that the state water board was overstepping their authority, and so they have that's been happening now, and things always go at a snail's pace in the court system. So they finally have a court date, but it's just going to be just for argument, and there's probably not going to be any kind of answer coming out from the court. This is going to be take several years to work its way through the court system. Meanwhile, these other basins that were facing probation went and redid their plans and submitted them to the state water board, and have managed to avoid any probation because they got that done. So we had 6 basins that were facing probation, and I think now we're only down to just these 2. This one that was the first one, the Kings County Tulare Basin, and then the second one is the Tule Basin. They were the second basin to have a probationary hearing, and they got put on probation. They have not filed a lawsuit, so their probation is kind of working around. But oh boy, that was just that basin getting put on probation really just made a mess of their governance situation, because they had a number of GSAs, which are agencies, groundwater agencies within the basin that are all supposed to work together to solve the problem. And they had people just leave the GSAs, and they've actually formed a new GSA and installed the board. So they're going to get working on it. But, it's really hard over there. One of the problems that they had in this basin, in the Tule Basin, is they have a large number of what they call undistricted areas. And these are folks that they bought land and they use groundwater only. Most of the agencies that are already formed in the San Joaquin Valley and actually across California are irrigation agencies, irrigation districts, and they have surface water that they distribute out to their farmers that have rights to that water.
Right.
And then there's the ones that come in that don't have surface water rights and they're not really in any particular agency. But when they were forming the GSA, it was actually most logical for the irrigation districts to join and become the GSA because they're already in operation. They already have farmers. Everyone knows what's going on. But now you have these undistricted lands, these farmers that are groundwater only that you have to bring into the fold. And this has been a big challenge because these are groundwater only farmers, and now you have to get them into the GSA, and then you have to tell them that they're going to be very limited on how much groundwater they can pump. So it becomes a very difficult situation. And so the Tule Basin is working on trying to get these people into a GSA, and then they have to figure out how they're going to manage the basin. Now, the Tule Basin, this basin also, unfortunately, has a portion of the Bryant Kern Canal running through it. The Bryant Kern Canal has been severely damaged by land subsidence, which occurs when people pump out groundwater.
Right.
So much groundwater that the ground actually collapses. If you think about it, you're pulling out water that had volume that was there, and now you pull it out, the ground flattens more. And
right.
So they figured out that subsidence was causing the problem. They collected the money. They've been doing an engineering fix to fix the canal, the subsided parts of the canal, but already the canal is continuing to subside. And this particular basin is where a lot of the subsidence is occurring. And so they're really under pressure to help pay for the damage to the Bryant Kern Canal and to stop their groundwater pumping. So in that area, so that they don't have any more land subsidence. So in this particular basin, they are really under pressure to do something. And so the big headline today is that really the only way forward is going to be a groundwater plan that is going to be pretty brutal because they just have to get their pumping under control and their land subsidence under control. Now, it's interesting, on the other side of the valley runs the California Aqueduct, and the California Aqueduct is having problems with the subsidence, but not to the extent the Bryant Kern Canal was having. And the GSAs that are around the California Aqueduct have implemented a program where the farmers that are in the vicinity of the aqueduct are controlled. They can't pump as much water as everybody else, and in some cases they can't pump at all. And they're doing projects like trying to put in recharge basins closer to the aqueduct to help with the subsidence. So there are things that can be done. but they kind of require, a reduction in pumping, sometimes a big reduction, and also some water to help build, to be able to sink into the ground to restore groundwater levels. So it's a real tough time for the folks in the Tule subbasin, and we'll see how it all works out for them. Hopefully they can figure this out.
Yeah. I heard somebody on the television the other day talking about Central California and how over 1 million people can't get water or have dirty water and stuff like that. And state's been talking about that for years, and they're not. I don't know how well they are addressing that, but actually, this is one area that I think Governor Newsom really wanted to attack when he got into office, and he reconfigured the makeup of the state water board to sort of include people more inclined to address this groundwater problem in the San Joaquin Valley. And so in the first year that Newsom was in office, he started what they call the SAFER program, the Safe and Affordable Clean Drinking Water. Somehow they get an acronym of SAFER out of that. I've never quite understood how. And they funded that to the tune of, I think, $10 million a year. And they used that money to go out and to address the problems in the valley. They also got, the State Water Board also got authority to order consolidations, because sometimes there are small water systems that are struggling with contaminated water, and they're right outside like other cities or larger water systems that could bring them in. Yeah, they don't have the money. The small guys. That's one of the problems.
They don't have the money, and these are, unfortunately, a lot of these are communities that were intentionally left out as the other cities grew up around them, mainly because they were people of color, and they were not. There was a lot of problems with that in the Central Valley, in civil rights and all that sort of thing. When the Dust Bowl happened and the farmers came out and tried to make a run of it in the Central Valley, there was some, there were just communities that just got left out. And Fresno was actually one of the rare exceptions to this rule, that when the State Water Board said, okay, we have authority to order consolidations now, the city of Fresno said, no need to order it. We're going to do this because it's the right thing to do. So they went around to some of those enclaves, and they have been working on hooking up their systems into the greater system. It takes a bit of work. You need an engineer to kind of look at the systems and see how they can be interfaced and how to address those problems. So it isn't just an overnight fix, but it is a very effective fix for a lot of these communities. And, hats off to Fresno for saying we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I've been to several meetings where some of the bigger water agency districts don't want to do that. They say it's going to cost them X amount of dollars, and they don't have the funds to do it. And is the state going to help them and things like that? So I've been to a lot of meetings like that, but I'm glad Fresno stepped up to the plate to do that. As you know, I totally believe everybody that lives here should, not only here but in the United States, should be entitled to have clean drinking water or water to use for whatever they need to have. So hats off to them. I give them a lot of kudos.
Yeah, the problem is that these aquifers underlying the Central Valley have become polluted through a lot of agricultural
Unknown
operations.
participant is now joining.
And it's not just the farmer out in the field that you see spraying something today. I mean, we're talking, a century of applied stuff to the ground, happening in the Central Valley. The farmer that you see out in the field is not the one that caused the problem.
Right.
So, they have all sorts of things that they are doing with farmers now. They like with nitrogen fertilizers. They have to have nitrogen management plans and all sorts of things. And there's also there's like pesticides and nitrogen and fertilizers and things that have gotten into the aquifers. And there's also naturally occurring contaminants like arsenic. It's just naturally occurring in the soils in the Central Valley. And as you draw the aquifers down, arsenic becomes more mobilized in the water. So
right.
the water is in the San Joaquin Valley is really in groundwater is really in terrible shape. And they do need state help and state funding to fix it, because it's not just the farmers you see today. It's the whole legacy of farmers. And, the agriculture doesn't have the money to fix all of that.
No, absolutely not.
But they are having to fix a lot of things, and they are stepping up to the plate, but they can't afford to fix the whole problem.
Well,
and it shouldn't be on their shoulders.
Oh, absolutely. Like in Riverside and San Bernardino County with Cadiz, where they're helping to get rid of the chromium-6 and all the other stuff. It's just hard. Hey, I've been also reading in your paper about Ted Cook, and where they retook his nomination off the table for the Bureau of Reclamation. How do you see that? Because I think a lot of the constituents and lawmakers up in those territories really like him, and they want him to be, but I don't understand why not. And I was talking to you earlier, about putting somebody in there who doesn't know anything about water, the different projects that are going on. I don't know how that's going to work by putting somebody who doesn't really have a background in that.
No, you really have to bring someone in that's familiar with what has been going on. And certainly Ted Cook was familiar, but there was just a lot of opposition, especially from, I'm understanding, those in the upper basin, that they thought he would be just unfair or biased in favor of Arizona. And Arizona, out of this whole Colorado River situation, has the most to lose. I mean, they're definitely in the toughest spot. But you just can't put anybody in that position. So it's kind of I don't know who they're going to pick now or how it will come to be. But it's kind of, you need someone in there that knows what's going on. And
I would have thought they would give a talk to, not that this person's going to quit the job she's doing, Brenda Berman. She's in charge of the Central Arizona project, but get an opinion from her. She knows what's happening. She knows people who know what's happening. I don't know how they have a selection team that goes out and tries to vet people to do this stuff. It's not that hard, I don't think. I mean, there's plenty of people who understand the situation and what's going on. Brenda did a great job, and then she moved on to Central Arizona project. But I don't know. It makes me. I just keep seeing these things happen. And it's like dragging the situation on and on and on and on. They should have been done. They should have been confirmed months ago. But,
you would hope so.
Yeah.
The Colorado River it sure is a tough case, and we're kind of coming up on the deadline. They keep saying the deadline is this, and then it passes, and the deadline's really this. Well, the deadline's really this, but I think that in November it's really going to be the real deadline because they have to. The principles that they're using for river operations right now are set to expire in 2026, and if they expire, then theoretically it goes back to the operating rules that were back in 1980 or something, which is really not going to work. So I think that they need to come. They really need to figure this out. My money is on this. If I was a betting woman, is that they're not going to be able to figure it out, and someone up on top is going to have to make a decision, and that decision is going to be, hard for probably everybody. I think. I don't think anyone's going to come out of this unscathed.
Right.
And it just brings to mind. I had a friend, Phil Eisenberg, who was a mayor and an assemblyman, and he was chair of the Delta Stewardship Council for many years. And he told me a story when he was working with LADWP at Mono Lake way back in the 1980s when the State Water Board was having the big hearing and everything. And the people, the guy from LADWP told Phil, he says, I can't give up that water. You need to take it from me. It's like, if I give up that water, I will be pilloried by my constituents, so I cannot be seen as giving it up. You have to take it from me. And I think that's what we are experiencing here on the Colorado River. No state wants to actually raise their hand and say, we will take this big, painful cut.
Right.
Because, their constituents are going to fry them. So I think I actually said this a while back. I think that they're going to have to go in there, and they're just going to have to say what it's going to be. Now, Arizona has already got money, has got people put together, and they're ready to go ahead and file a lawsuit once that happens. So, but I don't know how this is all going to affect river operations. And the latest study they had was that that you really need cuts even bigger than these cuts, and they really need to be happening now and not off in the future. So we'll see how this is going to play out, but it's not looking very good.
Well, one last thing I thought was interesting. The NASA Data Power's new tool to protect water supply after fires. That was a pretty good article you put together.
Well, no, actually, that article NASA put together. I just posted it on my website. But yeah, they actually ran some of this stuff for the LA fires. So it's great. It can show how past fires have altered the stream flow and the sediment levels, and which is really handy to know when you have a fire and then afterwards with the fire what's going to happen. So it's a great new tool from NASA.
Well, it's good as I always coin the phrase, in God we trust, although others bring data, because that's what, as an engineer, that's what I go by. I go by the data, what it tells me, and that's the most important thing to do. Guesswork is okay, but you need data to prove everything that you do. So I'm behind that 1,000%. And I also believe in trying something different, because again, another thing I used to coin was you can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat. So you got to try things, and it's okay. And it's okay if you fail, but you learn something from it. That's the important fact that you use that. Well, Chris, we're going to come up to our commercial breaks here, and we do appreciate you coming on every single week. For our listeners, you got to go, and I mean you got to go to mavensnotebook.com. Get everything that Chris writes every single day. And again, I keep saying it for years. I don't know how she does it. There's only so many hours in the week, and she exceeds that limit. And but you can get great stories and great information on what's happening behind the scenes. And all of that is free to you as a subscriber, but you can also be a little benevolent if you care to be, and you can be a sponsor of her show as well and what she does independently, and it's awesome. And everybody knows her as the Maven, and she is one of the most influential and known people in the world, especially here in the United States and California, who know what she does, and we're glad we have her. So, Chris, thank you very much, and you have a good, cool weekend, and nice ride home. After, at the end of the week, I guess you're going to do that, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
All right. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with our featured guests, so stick around. It's going to be some great conversation, and we'll be right back.
biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
We're continuously improving our digital features to make your business run smoother and save you time. Our updated account dashboard has streamlined some of the most important information for faster access to the things you need regularly. The 3 widgets at the top of the dashboard cover your purchase summary, credit information, and partners program points accumulation, all up to date by the minute. When orders come in, you'll see these widgets update as well. We want to protect your privacy, so the information is hidden by default. Click the Show button to see the specific numbers, such as year-to-date purchases, last year's purchases, and 12-month purchases. You can also click into the View All option. When you click View All, it will take you to the account overview page, where you can see all your sales information as well. Going back to the account dashboard, you can also review your credit information. You can view your credit limit, credit balance, and your open to buy based on that limit. Like the purchase summary widget, you can click the View All button to go into the account overview page from here as well. The third and final widget is SiteOne's Partners Program widget. Here, you'll be able to view your total available partners points based on your purchases for the current year, as well as the dollar amount. You can also view your enrollment status. Additionally, you can access your partners points dashboard from this widget, which shows you all your information, including what you can redeem points for, how to redeem points, see expiring points, and view overall perks like business solutions and free marketing tools. If you don't have online access to your SiteOne accounts or are not a current SiteOne account holder, request access or sign up today at siteone.com/online.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special guest today, and I want to introduce him. His name is Dr. Kendall DeJong, and his group and himself is winner of the Irrigation Association's 2005 Vanguard Award, which honors innovative projects in the irrigation industry executed by a team of individuals, companies, and organizations. And he's one of the special guys in this thing. He's one of the big brainiacs, and I appreciate that. Talking to engineers, I like that. So, Kendall, welcome to the Water Zone Show.
Hi, Rob. Thank you very much for welcoming me. I appreciate the invitation.
It's awesome. And just to tell our people, you are a agricultural research engineer with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and in Colorado, I believe. And I'm glad to have you. And I'm going to get to meet you at the IA show coming up in a couple of weeks, so that'll be good. Get to shake your hand in person, tell you congrats. And but going to kind of do this in 2 different ways. One, our listeners kind of want to know who you are and so forth. What drew your interest to the current career? What got you started in irrigation engineering?
Sure. Well, I guess you could say I was born into it. I grew up in south central Nebraska on an irrigated farm. We raised corn and cattle and some soybeans and some other crops. And so I kind of grew up helping my dad lay pipe and pull siphon tubes and checking pivots, and so I kind of came by it naturally, just being interested in irrigated agriculture specifically. And most of my work was in agriculture. I went to college and wanted to be an engineer because I like math and science, and as things progressed, it kind of turned into me being an agricultural water researcher. So I've been with the USDA ARS since 2011 now, so it's hard to believe it's been that long. But I work on irrigated agriculture and trying to create technology solutions for farmers to irrigate.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I guess when you're young and you do that stuff, it comes naturally to you, and it's something easy to do, so you stick with it. And that's awesome. And again, congratulations on winning the award. Since we have a diverse listening audience, we have some that are professional people in the irrigation industry, and we also have residential, regular old people. And so I'm going to ask you to, when we talk about this thing, I won't throw any hard questions, technical questions, because some of the audience probably won't understand what I'm asking, and we'll kind of make it simple. Can you explain to us what the award was for, and then how did you all start that meeting? What was the problem that existed, and then you worked on a solution for that? So maybe you can kind of give that in a bit more layman's terms for some of our listeners.
Sure. So one of the main projects that we work on, or one of the main problems, is trying to quantify how much water crops use. Because if we can know how much water the crops use, we can know how much we need to irrigate. And how much water crops use is called evapotranspiration. It's basically crop water use. And so part of our research program tries to estimate that, and we use soil moisture measurement and different sensors and sort of thing to track what it's like in the ground. But there's also different types of models that have been developed to estimate how much crop water use there is. And so these methods have been standardized for a long time, and people have written books about it. And people have written their own codes, including ourselves, but it's never been made in a publicly available way. So a colleague of mine and a really good friend, Kelly Thorpe, is another ARS researcher. He used to be in Maricopa, Arizona, doing experiments there. Now he's in Temple, Texas. So he wrote the original version of this code. And meanwhile, my research program had been using spreadsheet models for a long time. And, if you fat finger a keystroke on a spreadsheet model, then it blows up on you and you can't find the errors. And so we worked together to kind of expand this model and build it into something new. And what's interesting about it is that it's open source. It's written in a Python code so that anybody can use it. So if you just do a search for that PyFAO56, you can access all of the code that's been written already. And we've been working with other researchers from around the country and around the world, and now this code is starting to be developed into irrigation scheduling tools, and different researchers at Idaho and Oklahoma State and other places are starting to use it. So it's really gaining some traction over the last year or two, and we're very, very pleased and very honored to get the award for it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Most people, when you talk about crop coefficients and all those things, there's things that people don't understand. For example, a lot of residents who get smart irrigation controllers, they're told, well, this takes ET data, which sometimes is collected, or sometimes they have a program with estimates already written in them. But there's a lot of factors that go into putting that together. I always say, the ET evapotranspiration tells you when you need to water, but a soil moisture sensor tells you how much water you do need to fulfill that. But there takes more things to go into that formulation or that algorithm, like the type of soil, temperature, humidity, and a whole bunch of other things. And it's all different for all different crops and all different parts of the land. So it kind of gets a little complicated for the average, say, residential person to do it. But in the farming industry, which I totally believe is the backbone of our country, and it costs a lot for farmers to do the crops. and every bit of water they use, they have to be very cautious with that to do that. And that's a pretty hard thing to do. But do you think technology has caught up enough that it in the last 10 years or 20 years that it's definitely improved that? And is there any other technology that you see or believe should be added to all of this?
Sure. Yeah, you bring up some great points. ET scheduling is one of the tools in the toolbox. Soil moisture sensors are absolutely a tool, and I would say that none of these things are a silver bullet. I don't think that there's any one thing that can solve all of the irrigation scheduling problems and just uncertainty. But they all can be used together to try to make better decisions so that we can be more efficient and have better productivity. Some of the other technologies that are around, remote sensing is becoming a lot bigger. Satellite technology has come a long ways. And of course, with AI becoming more modern and used more prevalently, that gives an opportunity to process more data to get some better understanding of what's actually going on in the field. And so, combinations of all those things and weather stations are very helpful. Like you said, ET is important. I think those are all kind of tools in the toolbox. And with those things together, all of those things have come a long ways. And I think we know a lot more about how to remain more productive crop-wise with less water. That's one of the things that our research unit has learned. And so just trying to optimize that, I think we have come a long ways.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of going to several different large farming and ranching facilities over the years, and I'm amazed, how much technology they use. I mean, it's not just going out and turning the water on and looking at seeing if the crop's growing, but they go into deep science, and there's a big, obviously because you're doing it, there's a big technical program behind all of this thing to make it more efficient for the farming industry, and I think that's important. What challenge do you see that ag operations have? Well,
I can tell you as somebody who grew up on a farm, farming is hard. First of all, it's hard work, but even beyond how much effort is put into it, it's a conglomeration of risk. I mean, you're really prone to a lot of uncertainty in weather and in markets. And I think it's hard to have a crystal ball that's right all the time, and you kind of have to roll with the punches. And some years you have really good years, and some years you have bad years, and a lot of ones between are maybe okay. And so that's challenging. I mean, that's I guess when you talk about the challenges, it's just the many different aspects of it that are all interrelated. It makes farming very difficult. It's a tough job.
I'm sure you must have had some challenges on the project to try to resolve some of these things. What could you tell us what some of those could be or were?
Some of the challenges on the project itself.
Yeah.
At first, I think we knew that we had created a really powerful tool, and it's a tool that we use in our own research program, and it's been very useful. I think one of the main challenges initially was just trying to get the word out about what we have here and how it can be used. And I think once people started getting clued into that, now all of a sudden we have a lot of interest and a lot of people customizing it and kind of making it their own, and they're starting to do things with it that we never really even imagined would be done, and that's really exciting. So,
yeah.
I think initially it's just once you have created this, it's helpful when people want to use it, right? And so getting the word out.
Do you get a lot of feedback from the users of this?
Yeah, we have a quarterly meeting with users, and anybody is welcome to come if they have questions about it or if they're trying to customize it. And so, in those meetings, we talk about, what's the next step? Do we want to add new functionality, or how are other people using it? What are some of these new ideas? And so it's a very collaborative group and a lot of really sharp people, and so yeah, a lot of interesting ideas coming from it.
Does the U.S. Your organization, excuse me, Department of Agriculture, do you work with other federal agencies to help get, say, grants or rebates back for using new technology in the farming industry?
Yes, we do work with other agencies. We work with state agencies and researchers. We work with private groups. Our main goal as USDA researchers is to develop technology and solutions and get the word out. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense to work with other agencies or other groups. One application that we would really like to take with this tool is to work with center pivot manufacturers, for example. A lot of them have their own software, but being able to customize some of these things, I think, might have some value. So that that could be an example of a potential private partnership. But yeah, we work with a lot of different groups.
Mm. I'd love to spend a week with you to go over what you guys do, because it's pretty interesting. One of the things that I've always wanted to go see, and I never had the opportunity, and I was going to ask you about, maybe you know about it. I read a lot about vertical farming operations in the U.S. Do you see that as a future trend of production? Or I know it's expensive, from what I've read, to isolate everything all in one building and simulate temperature and humidity and rain and all of that. And how do you see that? Do you see that as a big ongoing portion of the farming industry? Or I know it's not for every kind of crop, because it's limited to the size of the building and how high it is and so forth. But how do you see vertical farming? Does it serve a part in production?
To be honest, that question is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. What I typically work on is commodity crops and, on a field scale, really. But I can tell you that, it's an interesting concept, especially for an evapotranspiration researcher. I think it would be really interesting to try to see if it has different crop water use indoors and that sort of thing. But I don't specialize in that, but I believe that there's USDA researchers that are focusing on this. I believe in the Carolinas, if I'm not right. So, I think there are opportunities, and especially with higher value crops, like you said, it's probably much more expensive to house things indoors. But if you have crops that have higher value and maybe are more sensitive to quality standards and that sort of thing, there might be a market for that for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's always interested me reading articles and seeing videos on the process of how they go about. But from what I gathered from it, I mean, I can't tell you how successful they are in doing those kind of crops, but it looks expensive with the equipment that they have to put in and try to simulate everything. On my last show, one of the other winners in the IA award, we were talking about vertical farming, and it was interesting to me that, like in a biosphere, that they have to simulate everything. Imagine astronauts. I know the U.S. is shooting to go to the moon and the Mars, and start a city kind of thing. But everything has to be modular, and you have to be able to sustain everything, and that's going to kind of be a hard thing to do. But I hope they solve that. What are the most effective environmentally sustainable strategies, do you think, to maintain or increase food production in soils affected by salinity?
Again, I don't work a ton directly in salinity, but as an irrigator, it certainly is a consideration, and it's something that we have to think about and consider. You can define irrigation efficiency in certain ways, but you can also have highly efficient irrigation systems, such as, let's say, drip irrigation is probably one of the most efficient. But say if you have salts in your soils, well, you might be putting salts in your emitters and having clogging issues, and
right.
And at some point you're putting those salts in your soils, and you might be waiting for very large rainfall event, or you might have to pump it through just to leach the soil. I know some of the local produce farmers here in Weld County, Colorado, that we've talked to. I mean, they typically, will leach their soils every few years, and I'm sure in some cases they have to do it more often. So it's definitely a consideration, and a consideration that probably changes a little bit based on a lot of factors like your irrigation type and your source water and all that. But it's definitely a reality of something to consider when you're dealing with irrigated ag.
Yep, I agree. So how does it feel to be honored by the Irrigation Association in a couple of weeks?
Hey, it's fantastic. I think the Irrigation Association does a great job reaching out to stakeholders in the irrigation industry. I've been to the Irrigation Association meeting a few times and given talks there before, and we're happy to go there and be honored with an award. It's very exciting for us. And Dr. Kelly Thorpe and I hopefully will both be there, and we're actually slated to give a 1-hour talk on PIFAO 56 and this model and ways that people can use it. So if your listeners are interested, come look us up and come check it out.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. I'm going to go see that as well when I'm there. Where do you see, just as person, the future of water in the United States? I know it's kind of a wide open question, but I mean, how do you think about it? I mean, you came from a farming background and things like that. I mean, we can't live without water. Everybody says we got to go green. We got to go green. Well, yeah, we can go green, but you got to have blue to go green. and how do you feel? I mean, you've grown up in that world, and you're personal to it, and you know about it. Where do you think it's going to happen? What are we going to eventually run out of water? I mean, we're using the same water from 100,000 years ago, but at one point in time, I can see some of that's not going to be able to be reproduced, and that is affected. How do you see that? Because I mean, farming. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's a big question, Rob. I love this question. I actually married an Iowa girl where they don't have to irrigate anything, and it just rains. Yeah. So you don't have to. You don't have to go very far for the world of water to be very different for people, especially in a big country like the United States. I think in the American West, you have a lot of issues with the, Colorado River goes to a lot of cities and a lot of people use it. And yep. I think the big thing, again, coming back to farming is the uncertainty, right? I mean, if you have, you're dealing with a watershed that comes from snowmelt in the mountains, and how much snow you get and when it starts running off is a thing that changes every year, and you can't necessarily predict it. So, I think trying to understand risk and uncertainty is a big part of how we can try to manage water, because we can't tell the future, but we can maybe get a better idea of what to reasonably expect.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know it's a tough thing. I always ask somebody, a lot of the water districts or people from that, I always go, okay, if the governor or the president of the United States dubbed you the czar of water, what are the top 3 issues you would attack first? And in farming, go ahead.
So you're asking me what the 3 things are that I would do?
Yeah, because I usually ask that question as a throw-in question, because
I see.
Everybody has different opinions on what needs to be fixed first to make everything perfect.
Well, I think public education is a big one, and I did listen to your podcast last week with Derek here, and he actually is a friend and colleague of mine, so I knew that this question might be coming a little bit, and he also said this. But I think public education, especially in the Western U.S., is really important, because I think a lot of people might move from the Midwest where water is plentiful, and when they get out here, to desert areas or wherever, they might not understand just how precious a resource it is. And so I think education is a big part of it. Maybe selfishly dealing with what I do. I think real-time irrigation scheduling tools might take some of the guesswork away. Can we prioritize trying to put water where we need it when we need it, and how do we learn how to answer that question? I mean, that's really what my research program has been focused on, and we're chipping away at it, and we're learning more every year. But I do think it's a personal priority, but I think it can be very helpful for everybody. And this is maybe not something that you could do being in charge, but I can tell you that if you pray for snow in Colorado, I like snowboarding and whitewater rafting and agriculture, and I don't like forest fires, and snow helps all those things. So
yes,
I guess if we could somehow make it snow more, it would be helpful.
We had about a year or two ago, we had somebody who does cloud seeding company come on, and they were talking about that.
Sure.
And I don't think it's as widely used as people think it is. Do you know any more about it than I know? I just don't see that happening a lot.
I don't know anything about cloud seeding, but it is kind of a fascinating idea.
Yeah, I see. Because in Arizona, we're in what they call the monsoon season, and then they have something called the haboob. I don't know if you've heard what that is. It's supposed to be a big wall of dirt. It's like 100 feet high that sweeps across the place. I've never seen that either, but they always give warnings out over our cell phones and stuff. You got a dust storm coming, and it's I can't imagine. I guess it's like a dirt tsunami that comes across. But when it rains really hard. And when I came from California, and my office is in California, I go back and forth. But what's interesting with that of how much water, flood water, just goes to the sewer, to the ocean. Not enough things for capturing that. And those are something that I think we should take a look at. I also think that there's too many people in the United States, especially even in California. I was talking on the show, maybe you heard that part, where I heard there was over 1 million people affected by bad water, contaminated water. And I don't understand why that doesn't get really addressed. It's a shame in 2025 that we got to go through that. So who knows? I don't know.
Yep, water quality is an issue too, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kendall, or Dr. I should be more official with you, Dr. Dijon. It was certainly
Kendall, that's fine.
Okay. It was a pleasure meeting with you. It was also last week with your buddy Derek, and like I said, I personally want to come meet you and shake your hand in a couple of weeks at the show. And I'm going to come in and listen to you and Dr. Thorpe's presentation. I'm very interested in that. I'm not an agriculture engineer. My background is electronics and a master's in physics, but I come from the tech side on how to make the controllers work and things of that sort. But I do like talking about hydraulics. I do like talking about people who do the software and come up with these algorithms to make life better and easier and help support the farming industry. I appreciate that a lot. So thank you very much for joining us on the show, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And again, thank you from the staff of the Water Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I look forward to meeting you.
Great. All right. We're going to talk to everybody next week, and we'll have a special announcement next week on the show when you tune in. And it'll be pretty interesting for all of you. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And you'll be happy about it. And we'll talk to you next week. Remember to do the most important thing. If you like green, you got to have blue. So take care of your water. Good night, everybody.
Mm-hmm. NBC News on KCAA